Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. All right, can everyone hear me okay? Testing, mic check. Lucian, good? All right.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so Kelly asked Lucian and I to put together a presentation on SlingerBag. SlingerBag, for those of you who don't know, is a client of ours. They've been a client since, really we launched in May of 2020. January of 2020 is when we really first engaged with them. And it's really been a love story from the beginning. So our presentation titled Adventure Media and SlingerBag, a love story. Our agenda is not really agendas, it's chapters in our love story. The first chapter is titled Humble Beginnings. Chapter 2, a shidduch. Chapter 3, launch. Chapter 4, early success. Chapter 5, a rat among us. So these are the chapters. I'll just jump into them to be mindful of time here. So chapter 1, humble beginnings. SlingerBag launched as a Kickstarter. What that says behind Erica is that they launched on Kickstarter in May of 2018. Essentially, Joe Kalfa and Arik Yuval were two Jewish guys who couldn't find anyone to play tennis with them. So they asked the internet for money to build a companion tennis robot. And that's what they have here. They just had an idea. They were looking to build this robot so that they could have someone to play tennis with. And that's all it was. It was just an idea in 2018, and they were trying to raise money via Kickstarter. At the same time, I was busy working on important things. This is me in May of 2018 at the Kentucky Derby. I was busy working on selling bulletproof backpacks for this nut job. And working with these titans of industry, you know, InstaSlim, Newborn Course, Corset Deal, Nakama remembers this one, and of course, Bidet Genius. How could we forget in the golden days? Bidet Genius. I'm not hearing Walter Deibel, the Bidet Genius. All right, so this was just a clip that we're not hearing, but essentially, this was what I was focusing all of my time on back in May of 2018.
We were changing the world.
You got it. We were changing the world with Walker. Walker, he was the best. And then the next slide is just a review, which we'll probably also not hear, but it's just the woman saying how she can't go on vacation anymore because she can't stand to be away from her bidet. So we're not going to hear that, but we'll skip through to a shidduch. Chapter 2, a shidduch. No, not this shidduch. This is the wrong one. That's Isaac, and that's not the right shidduch. The proper shidduch that I want to discuss with you today is Ari Pirtinsky and Judah Honickman. So Ari here with his website profile, often confused with a young Dustin Hoffman, looking like a gorgeous male actor, isn't all Ari's good at. He's also a tennis enthusiast and a savvy salesman, always looking to close a deal. And he met Judah Honickman, who's the CMO of SlingerBag, just happened to be looking for a kick-ass performance marketing agency to bring SlingerBag to market in late 2019. Also, Judah's father grew up in Levittown.
Yeah, he did.
What a shidduch. It was kismet, and these two fell deeply in love. And this was the beginning of our relationship. Chapter 3 is the launch. The launch process took a lot of work because, like I mentioned, SlingerBag started from nothing. They were just a Kickstarter campaign. They didn't come to us as a company that had accounts that we were taking over. It was essentially, hey, we have this idea, we've started manufacturing, and we're going to be able to ship in a few months, build us essentially a marketing plan. So shout out to Ian and Patrick for their work on the landing page that we created, order.slingerbag.com, that we're still utilizing. There's been some tweaks to it, but this is still where we're sending the majority of our paid traffic to and how we're generating most of our sales. So that was step 1. Step 2 was to launch Facebook prospecting. These campaigns on Facebook, this is another video that I'm assuming we're not going to be able to hear, but this is an example of what we had to work with, and it's essentially this 85-year-old man literally saying, "SlingerBag is the best, baby." And that was the creatives that we had to work with from the beginning. And it was good. It worked. Nick Bollettieri, for those who don't know, is a historic, he's a famous tennis coach. He's in his 80s, and he is a SlingerBag ambassador from the early stages, and someone that gave us a lot of credibility in the tennis community. Step 3 was converting bottom of the funnel traffic with Google shopping campaigns, search campaigns. So we launched shopping after really targeting, broader tennis audiences on Facebook and getting the brand out there. Again, this was all net new. No one had ever heard of a SlingerBag before. There wasn't an awful lot of search volume for people looking for what SlingerBag is. It's a product that's really kind of new. There are tennis ball launchers, but they're generally like big, bulky, plug into the wall. You get it at your local tennis club. This was portable. It was rechargeable. You charge it. You throw it in the trunk of your car. It's everything that you need. So there wasn't a lot of search traffic for it. So we started with the prospecting and then started to convert through bottom of the funnel. Chapter 4, early success. Slingerbag becomes the #1 tennis launcher in the U.S. This is from our case study that's on the website, adventureppc.com. Take a look. 6.87 million in revenue in the first 12 months, a $60 CPA, 11.6 ROAS, over 10,000 units sold in the first year. Again, this is something that we're very proud of. It's all from kind of net new and through our channels. In addition to what we were doing, Judah and the Slinger team did a great job with creating ambassador agreements, getting Slinger bags in the hands of professional tennis players and influencers just to use them. There was a post by a Kardashian at one point. I won't say who because I don't know, but there was a lot of success that we saw early on. Then things went south, as all relationships sometimes do. There was a rat among us. And this one, this is the ordeal, as Isaac would describe it, that caused us to kind of throttle down our campaigns and slow down our growth. But at that time, we got a little bit complacent, and we weren't testing as much as we could have. We let our complacency really leave the door open for and to step through and get in Judah's ear a little bit and claim that we aren't doing as much testing as we could be doing and that we were leaving potential efficiencies on the table. And this was a bit of a wake-up call for us. He was right. We weren't testing as much as we could, and we were too complacent. That's where Lucian steps in. In chapter 6, Lucian saves the day. And I want to let Lucian take over at this point if he can hear us and jump in here.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. So February 2021 is basically when I joined the agency, and I got this account assigned to me about a week earlier. The client wasn't happy then, and they basically gave us an ultimatum. They gave us 2 months to prove ourselves until they would have their annual review. They also brought in, as Ronnie mentioned, to run some campaigns in parallel. At the time, Raziel was also using Magix, a tool that helps with Facebook automation and can mass create lookalike audiences. He created a lot of lookalike audiences that helped quite a bit. At the same time, we tested a lot of interest. We tested a lot of creatives. He was only there for a few weeks. He ran his campaigns for a few weeks, and after that, we basically consolidated the account. We restructured the account, especially the retargeting campaign, and eventually we achieved, within the deadline, we achieved Slinger's first $1 million month. You can switch the slide. So these are some of the creatives we've been testing.
They were a little bit better than the 85-year-old man shouting.
Yeah, so just to describe the situation pre-iOS 14 and post-iOS 14. So as I said, the iOS 14 came at the end of April, and in that month, Slinger achieved the first $1 million month. The account was well tuned, it was well optimized. We were seeing consistent performance at about 10x ROAS in Facebook. The client was very happy. And then iOS 14 hit. At the time, a lot of our clients, and from what I was seeing with other agencies, their clients were seeing 40% drop in performance across the board. However, the Slinger CPA and ROAS remained unchanged, which also surprised me. It was very nice to see. You can switch to the next slide. So just to do an overview of the campaigns I was running at the time, the account structure, we consolidated the prospecting campaigns into just a single campaign. We took the best audiences. There were quite a few of them, over 12. And also, the most important part was that also each ad set had over 8 ads, winning ads. We tested a lot more, but over time, over the last couple of months before that, we found about 8 that were doing very well. So Facebook ended up optimizing the audiences and the ads so well that it knew at which time to show which ad within which audience. So this is why in May, when a lot of other accounts were seeing like half the ROAS, the Slinger campaigns were basically were not impacted. And to go over go back a little. So the retargeting campaign was interesting and it worked quite well as well. It was a CBO campaign, and I split it with 6 ad sets. 3 of them were people that visited, that engaged, or viewed at least 15 seconds within the last 30 days. And then the other 3 were people, everyone else. So from 31 days to 184 visitors, or for 21 to 365 days. Next slide, please. And then in June, the client redesigned the website and switched to Magento. This was a big problem because, at least from what I know, we were warned about it a few days earlier. And when the switch happened, all tracking was lost. So basically we had to start from scratch with the tracking. We had to use other events because prior to that we were using a custom purchase event. And even though we kept the same campaigns, the CPA was now like 3x higher. And that's because the Facebook algorithm was so well optimized before that. It had all the data it needed, the history behind it. But once we had to start the tracking from scratch, it lost all of that. And now, at the same time, it was a lot harder to get all of those signals back because of iOS 14. So we couldn't reach that performance anymore. Also, the site needed 7 clicks for a visitor to reach a purchase, which was like it's a very high journey.
Chapter 7.
Yeah.
Black Friday record.
So just talk a bit about the performance prior to the Black Friday. In those previous few months, we were still getting between, however, at a lower ROAS. So we increased spend just to hit that revenue goal. The site didn't change that much during this time, even though it needed a lot of CRO improvements. It was in the middle of the whole iOS 14 chaos. Those few months were terrible for everyone. The client also increased the prices for all of the product variants. And we also saw at the end of October, the CPA jumped up another 2x from what it was. So basically people stopped buying at the time, at the end of October, just before, like a month before Black Friday. And on Black Friday, we got a few creatives a couple of days before launching the campaign. We will only offer the 10% discount and a free gift, but very limited in number. So there wasn't a whole lot to work with. We didn't have the conversion API set up. So now Facebook lost it. The ROAS was showing about 4 to 5x in Facebook, which was not great. Like during the whole Black Friday launch, the campaign. However, I noticed that when I was increasing Facebook spend, the revenue that we were seeing in analytics was also jumping like proportionally. So I kind of stopped looking at the Facebook performance because the results were also delayed. The ROAS was delayed. Like I couldn't wait until the end of the day just to get back all of those delayed reports and sales and like revenue. So I was just looking at analytics, and I knew it would be an important goal to hit on Black Friday just for the Black Friday campaign. So I tried to push the Facebook budget in order to hit that, like kind of plot the trend there and see what we would need to spend. So I pushed the budget quite aggressively. And the result was for the whole 1 week or so campaign, which was a 7x increase from the previous year on Black Friday.
And I'll just jump in here, Lucian, because I think that's an important point, that within the Facebook metrics, we weren't necessarily seeing the increase that we wanted to in the short period of time from this increase. But having an understanding of where all their traffic was coming from, understanding that their website was seeing a 3 times increase in overall conversion rate, gave us the confidence to increase budget on Facebook, drive more traffic from Facebook, even if the on-platform metrics weren't where we needed them to be, because we're looking at the bigger picture, the marketing efficiency ratio. When we're increasing the budget, we're driving more traffic to the site. Is it still converting at this high rate? Even if the tracking isn't all there, we can generate positive results from it. And this was the overall result, over a 10 times return in our MER, almost 11 times. The revenue on Black Friday was the previous daily record was $1. So this was an extremely successful campaign for the week that we ran this. And we were, even though I think the biggest part of this, why it was successful, was that Lucian wasn't afraid to increase and continue to spend on Facebook, despite the fact that the ROAS looked like a 4 or 5 on Facebook. Having an understanding of the overall business and seeing all the revenue that was coming in, despite having issues with tracking, we were still able to maximize the return that we were seeing from the Black Friday sale. And these were our insights. Anything else on the Black Friday sale, Lucian? Or I'll let you jump back.
Yeah, I think this is it here. Yeah, because we noticed the analytics conversion rate was much higher, like over 2.5x. We knew we could spend a lot more and get that revenue. And basically, we were noticing the same thing Brandon noticed with that the Facebook numbers didn't seem quite right. However, the overall revenue for the company, or the overall ROAS, was still very, very good. So after the Black Friday campaign, we kind of saw a drought there. The revenue dropped significantly to about in December, and in January. We also reduced spend in January because we were expecting to launch the new Shopify redesign and site. And a couple of reasons for this drought, for this decline. I would say primarily the seasonality, because courts are usually not open during this time and the weather is cold outside, so people don't really need to buy the Slinger bag then. And we also exhausted all of the audiences that we were targeting. We maximized the budget we were pushing to them, and if you would have spent even more, we would have seen diminishing returns.
Chapter 8.
Yep.
Shopify.
So on February 8th, we launched the Shopify site. We started slow, so the revenue for the month ended up just a bit higher than January. We had some issues with the landing pages. They were loading slowly. They added some large videos on the landing pages. Tracking, we also had to work on tracking to make sure everything is working perfectly. During this month, the client added about 100 Trustpilot testimonials, which I believe helped increase the conversion rate quite a bit. And in March, we saw in revenue. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. The changes are coming pretty slowly, however. There is a huge potential to increase the CRO and revenue with A/B testing and upsell apps on Shopify. It should be much easier to optimize the site in the future. For April, we are expecting to hit this month. We've already had a little bit over, had some days, so I'm pretty confident we can scale it up to this month. The overall ROAS or MER is around 7.x right now, probably around 9 with time lag. Like the final ROAS you would see for this account is about a month later, when you look back a month later, not during the same week. CRO improvements are still direly needed. We're trying to work with the client to make those changes. And expectations for this year, I would expect not to have another month under, assuming all of these changes are also coming. So CRO improvements, a potential TikTok launch, and fleshing out the email marketing. However, all of these would probably need us to manage them because the client doesn't seem to have a lot of time to do all of this. And if we want to see a significant increase in revenue and profits this year, I think we'll probably have to manage these ourselves. And if we do,
I like this idea of no less month for the rest of the year. I didn't know, I wasn't aware those were our expectations. Did we share? We haven't shared these with Judah yet, have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we can prepare for Black Friday much better this year. So last year we hardly prepared. A few weeks earlier we talked about it. We got a few creatives like in the same week with the Black Friday launch. I think this time we can prepare a couple of months at least before. We can launch some email marketing campaigns, some lead generation, like all of this stuff I think could really help this year's Black Friday campaign.
Yeah, and one ties back to, we didn't mention earlier, but the Black Friday sale last year, we really had to twist their arm to let us to have one. They gave us a 10% discount, which was very small for as far as Black Friday sales go, but we saw such great success from it. To tie it back to a presentation earlier, the data storytelling presentation, exactly what you guys put together there is something that we're going to need to do over the course of the next couple months for Slingerbag to tell this story with the data, that to convince them to let us do another Black Friday sale this year and to potentially blow it out bigger, because all the stuff we went through on this, we talked about the ups and downs and what was successful and what wasn't, but the presentation that you guys had where you can really visualize that data for them is, I think, what Mike Belardi, the CEO, is going to need to allow us to do another Black Friday sale and hopefully give maybe more than a 10% discount or to do something a little bit differently than we did last year to generate those types of results.
Yeah, I think if we can work on these improvements over the next few months, we could have a significantly better Black Friday, maybe 3x more in revenue. Like
for Black Friday. Awesome. That's pretty much it. The only thing I will add is that Isaac was talking about his storytelling earlier, and it's funny because I did not know what his presentation was going to be about, and I put this together like a story. The story isn't over, and that's the other thing. That's the other part of this journey, right? There's ups and downs, and we're still very much in the weeds with the things that we have to do. There's improvements that need to be made, but the course of the last 2+ years, I think we've grown a lot with Slingerbag, and I like where we are. Questions? Avery.
Like you mentioned, the site was launched without being told too much in advance. You mentioned
another guy managing Facebook campaigns.
Yeah, like now you're looking at this stuff. Like all these things, there's a lot of things are just like, oh, we lose a client if we didn't manage it properly. Like,
right.
How did you do that?
I think the beginning portion, chapter 2, the shidduch, helped a lot because we had a really good relationship with Judah. Judah trusted us. He's been here. He brought his father here one day. We had like that face-to-face with him, and there was trust. And when he had this audit done for him, so we were just kind of on autopilot, and he called us out on it. But because we had that trust and that relationship built, we were able to like kind of wrangle it back, and we were able to prove to him and show our ability again. And Lucian was a big part of stepping in and running all these different tests. And not all of them were successful, but just the idea that we were able to do it and prove that to him, understanding what he needed to see from us, I think helped. So that's why I always talk about like building those relationships early, being in a position where, okay, if you screw up, because we're all going to screw up inevitably, like if there's trust there and the relationship is built on that, then you'll be able to hopefully have the opportunity to wrangle it back. Any other questions?
I love the Slingerbag ads on Facebook. I get them all the time.
You buy one.
Yeah, you should buy a bunch. we have to a month apparently every month now. Awesome.
My question is, apart from Facebook ads, you're running other channels like Google Shopping and so on. So when you look at analytics, how are you able to visualize the data that by increasing the Facebook budget, you are getting more revenue? How do you look at that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's really having that understanding of the business. Like we said, like we weren't seeing the on Facebook reported metrics hitting our ROAS targets, and it looked like our CPAs were really high there. But if you have enough data and you look at it, and honestly, we probably should have had Abby or Greg build some regression analysis or look into it. We kind of can eyeball it and see like, all right, when we spent more on Facebook, we know it has this impact on the overall bottom line, and particularly with things like the sale. If we're seeing a really high conversion rate on the website overall, then we can feel confident to pay for more traffic to come to that website. Even if Facebook isn't showing the return, we know that acquiring a user, if they're converting at 3% on the website now, and they usually convert at 1%, I need to spend more to drive that traffic to the site at this point. So it's a little bit of guessing and taking from there, and kind of the feel of the account, knowing what's going on. But yeah, there's probably a lot more work that we could do to be very much more specific with our knowledge of, okay, if we increase Facebook by X this month, what is the return that we're going to see? We don't really have all of that data right now.
Yeah, I think you can get a feel for it. So I tend to look at the account, like the Shopify account revenue and numbers every day. So I start to get a feel for it. And I also look at revenue per visitor. So for instance, if we get, let's say $10 per visitor during a day, that's not great. I mean, it's like the minimum we need to hit. Then if we get 12 or even 14, that's awesome. So I know that if I made a change in Facebook, increased the budget on a certain audience or a certain campaign, something like that, and then I see those results in Shopify a few days later, because it takes a bit of time to adjust as well, like in terms of when people buy after they see the ad. So I know that it works. And we've also done a post-purchase survey, and we noticed a lot of purchasers come from YouTube. So we started fleshing out the YouTube campaigns there, and I'm actually working to kind of replicate the format I have in Facebook to the YouTube campaigns, and like see what's going on there. But so far it seems to be working. It's just not fully.
The post-purchase survey is a really good point, Lucian, because we instituted that when we switched to Shopify, and we saw that 15% of purchasers who responded to that survey said that they first heard about us from YouTube, which we had no data to support that beforehand. We were investing on YouTube for our prospecting, and the ROAS that we were seeing from the YouTube channel, from those ads, did not indicate that it was impacting and really starting the first touch point for 15% of our sales. But seeing that from those surveys gave us more confidence to allocate more budget to YouTube and to spend more on YouTube prospecting. So that was a good point, Lucian.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're out of time. Kelly's throwing stuff at us now, so thank you all. I don't know who.